9 true horror stories that prove you should never whistle alone in the Appalachian Mountains. The air hung thick as dusk settled over the Appalachian Mountains, a steely chill creeping into the bones of anyone foolish enough to wander too close to the dense thickets. Whispers danced through the twilight, twisting branches like skeletal fingers beckoning the unwary. You see, the locals know better. They've heard the tales, stories told around flickering campfires where shadows loom large and real. Something in those woods stirs when the sun goes down, something that thrives on the sound of a single, foolish whistle. It started 3 years ago when a group of hikers stumbled into a secluded glen, the laughter ringing like bells through the serene valley. They were carefree, joyous, until one of them, a college kid named Jake, decided to let out a sharp, melodious whistle. The very instant the note fell from his lips, a silence enveloped the area like a heavy blanket. It was the kind of silence that bore down on you, crushing, pressing, and forbidding. The laughter ceased, replaced by a gathering darkness that felt alive, pulsing with an unknown hunger. They could have turned and run, but an unseen force anchored them, making even the bravest among them hesitate. And then it happened. They heard it. A low, mournful wail echoing from deep within the woods, so haunting it made their bones shiver. Suddenly, the trees rustled violently, like 1,000 whispers confused in panic. Something was watching. It wasn't just the shadows moving. There were figures, dark outlines just out of sight, always lurking. What made this story bleed putrid fear into the hearts of those who heard it was the aftermath. Jake had disappeared. Not a single trace remained. Not even a whisper of his whistle could be found. Weeks turned to months. Those who searched spoke of strange footprints, odd markings on trees, as though something was tracing its own twisted message. Each story of vanishings and bedtime warnings all led back to the same chilling tenet. Never whistle alone in these hills. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Fast forward to a year later. In the same eerie valley, when a new group of thrill-seekers decided they'd push their luck, they crowded the edge of a craggy cliff, the sun dipping lower, casting long, distorted shadows. The bravest among them, a girl named Lisa, could feel heat rushing through her veins, daring her to tempt fate. And when she, too, let a whistle slip from her lips, the world around them shifted. Darkness curled like smoke, thick and toxic. The collective breath in the air was palpable, the others standing frozen, eyes wide with fear. What had they unleashed? Suddenly, the wail came back, louder this time, more demanding. A frantic search ensued, panic ensnaring them in its grip. But were they just hearing things? Could it be all in their heads? Or was something lurking just beyond the edge of light, waiting patiently for another call? As dread thickened and the sun slipped away, no one could shake the feeling they weren't alone. And perhaps they should have heeded the warnings. Questions hung heavy in the air. What would happen if they whistled again? What would become of them, just like the stories told in terrified whispers? Would the mountains claim them too, just as they had claimed Jake? In that moment, not a single soul dared to find out. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves like whispers carrying stories too grave to be told. Lisa's heart thundered in her chest, echoing like a drum. The cold seeped into her bones as darkness swirled, swirling around them like a living thing. Her friends stood near her, faces pale, shadows flickering in the gathering gloom. Each glance exchanged spoke of fear, panic tightening their throats. Did you hear that? Mark, a tall guy with hair flopping over his eyes, broke the tense silence, his voice trembling like a leaf caught in a storm. His wide gaze darted toward the trees, where the darkness seemed to pulse and breathe. Another wail reached them, echoing off the cliffs, a sound so full of anguish it felt like a knife in the gut. It sent shivers cascading down Lisa's spine. She could see it now, the shadowy figures lurking between the trees, dipping and weaving in the fading light, their movements sinuous, unnatural. They were not alone. "Let us go," Sarah urged, her voice barely above a whisper. She grabbed Lisa's arm tightly, her grip frantic. "We need to get out of here." But Lisa didn't move. Something held her in place, a terrible curiosity mixed with the dread that coiled tightly in her stomach. "No, we can't just leave," she insisted, her voice breaking through the tension. "What if whistling again is a terrible idea?" Brad interrupted, his voice sharp with urgency. "Do you know what happened to Jake? We didn't come here to end up like him." His words hung heavy in the air. Memories of the tales they'd heard back in town looped in Lisa's mind, a horror film playing on repeat. The disappearances, the wails, the stories of those who let their whistles slip in the mountains. The ground underfoot quivered suddenly, primal and earth-shaking. Was it her imagination, or did the trees lean in, eager to listen? "Shut up. Just stop," Lisa practically begged, her emotional whirlwind spilling over. She didn't want to act like a coward, but a vision stirred deep within her, a flash of Jake's smiling face, a silhouette disappearing, swallowed by tree shadows, an image intertwined with fear and longing, nudging her toward the unknown. A laugh erupted suddenly from the back of the group, something mocking and sinister. It sent a wave of chill skittering up their spines. It was Tyler, the Joker, dismissing the warnings. "Simon, it's just a story. Seriously, guys." He lifted his hand, a smirk dancing on his lips, and let out a long melodic whistle. The effect was immediate. The air crackled with tension. The laughter hanging in the group evaporated, replaced by a grave, pulsating silence. The shadows thickened into something unfathomable. "What did you do?" Lisa screamed, her voice cracking, desperation clawing at her throat. But Tyler was frozen, eyes wide, staring into the dense woods as if he could see something towering and monstrous just beyond the trees. And then it came, a groaning sound, so guttural, it felt like the earth itself was crying. It resonated within their chests, monstrous and painful, drowning out their thoughts. A symphony of terror played for only them. Panic surged through the group, sending them stumbling backward, away from the cliff's edge. As the echoes of Tyler's whistle rolled away, darkness surged forward, and the air filled with a velvet chill that clawed at their skin. They backed against the rocks like frightened sheep, hearts racing. I can't breathe," Sarah whimpered, clutching at her throat as tears streamed down her cheeks. "Run," Mark commanded, his own voice shaking. "We have to get out of here now." But as they turned to flee, the shadows shifted, chaotic and ominous, blocking their path. Each figure seemed to pulse, watching them with hollow eyes filled with the hunger of the lost. Their only salvation was the path behind them, yet each hesitant step felt slower, burdened by dread. Just then, Lisa felt a cold finger trace down her spine, a whisper sliding through her mind. One she couldn't quite catch. "Don't you dare whistle again." The others didn't notice it, pulled back into the surge of panic. But fear anchored Lisa, leaving her breathless. A choice loomed in the air, sharper than any blade. Would they take the risk or succumb to the darkness? Just as a decision threatened to surface, an ear-piercing wail echoed again, devouring the whispers and leaving only silence, thick, suffocating silence. Lisa glanced over her shoulder, and in that fleeting moment, she wondered, was something more than just darkness waiting for them? As the boundary between safety and horror blurred, they had no idea what awaited them in the shadows. Would they find a way out? Or would they, too, become part of the haunting stories told around flickering campfires? The choice pressed against them. But whispers beckoned again. What would happen if someone dared to whistle once more? Lisa's heart raced, skidding against the icy pull of fear. The oppressive darkness wrapped around them, a suffocating cloak. Each breath came sharper than the last, echoing like an alarm in the night. "Tyler," Sarah yelled, her voice quivering, a fragile thread barely holding together. "What did you do?" Tyler, still entranced, seemed less like a person and more like a puppet tangled in invisible strings. His mouth hung slightly open, eyes wide but lifeless, gazing beyond casually waving branches that cloaked whatever nightmare awaited them. "Snap out of it," Mark shouted, darting a glance over his shoulder, anxiety etched into his features. The wail echoed again, a chilling, inhuman sound, slicing through their thoughts. Panic seized the group. They turned again to the way they'd come, the path that would lead to safety, but the shadows shifted like a serpent twisting, writhing, ready to swallow them whole. "Fight it," Lisa urged, shaking Tyler's shoulder, her voice wrapping around desperation. "We can't let it take you." Mark grasped Tyler's other arm. "We need to move. If he can't hear us, we can't leave him." The figures in the darkness flickered like candles caught in a breeze, tempting and terrifying. They didn't just loom. They lurked, watching. What were they? Souls lost or something darker? "Please, we need to go," Sarah gasped, stepping back as the wind picked up, carrying with it an unsettling chorus of whispers, melding with the desperate beat of her heart. But another sound pulled at her senses, a rustling that danced through the trees, a faint melody. It curled around the edges of her consciousness, sweet and seductive. She hardly realized she had stepped further into the shadows, entranced with each new note that twined in harmony with the call from the woods. "Sarah, no!" Lisa lunged, grabbing her friend's arm just before she became lost in the encroaching dark. "Don't listen. It's tricking you. I can hear it." Sarah's eyes glimmered with a frenzy of fear and longing. "It's beautiful, no. It's a trap," Brad shouted, breaking free from his sobering instinct. "We have to fight against it. We have to break this spell." They pulled on Sarah, tugging her back from the brink as the wailing morphed into something more sinister: laughter, twisted and mocking. Shadows danced as they inched closer, dragging themselves through underbrush, hungry swirls of nothingness reaching out to the living. "Let us whistle back." Tyler's voice finally broke through the haze, a spark rekindling life in his panicked eyes. "It could help us." "Are you insane?" Lisa shouted, voice laced with disbelief. "You're talking about calling them. It might work." Tyler insisted, desperation coloring his tone. "We need to trap them. If we whistle together, please. Let us go." Sarah pleaded, her voice a tremor. "We don't want any more trouble, lies." Tyler spat, and he stepped sideways, finding a small clearing. "We don't have a choice. Could turn the tide if they think we're calling to them, too." He raised his hands with fervor. "We have the power." Before they could protest, Tyler took a breath. The whistle that escaped his lips was a melody unlike anything Lisa had heard. It rippled through the still air, unsettling the trees. Instantly, the energy in the forest shifted like an earthquake, the shadows boiling with anger. The sound echoed against the cliffs, creating a roar of cacophony, bouncing off the rocks and back to them. Each note wove a net, pulling the darkness as if responding forcefully to the call. In a tight embrace of gripping fear, the group held onto each other, hearts racing. Brad turned to Lisa, his face a mask of determination. "We stick together, no matter what." But just as resolve built within them, the figures surged forward, a collective whisper spilling from their ghostly mouths, that horrid chorus weaving through the air, growing stronger. "Run! Go now!" Mark yelled, the urgent tone sending a rush of adrenaline coursing through Lisa's veins. With terror pushing them into motion, the group sprinted across the rocky terrain. But beyond the trees, darkness beckoned and beckoned still. What awaited them in that murky abyss? As they dashed through the chaos, the haunting laughter chased their heels, echoing like a promise of doom. Fear clawed at them, urging them to keep moving. No one dared to glance back, but a lingering thought remained. Was there any escape? Were they truly lost, or merely pawns in a wicked game? And as the night pressed upon them, the shadows behind seemed to slither closer, closer still, whispering secrets only the dark could know. Would they uncover the truth, or become a new tale in the mountainous twisted history? The forest closed in around them, its darkness thickening like a living shroud. Lisa's breath caught in her throat as she sprinted, the pounding of her heart drowning out the laughter that echoed behind them. The branches grabbed at her arms, sharp and unforgiving, pulling her back, urging her to surrender to the shadows. "Don't stop. Keep going," Mark shouted, his voice barely rising above the cacophony of whispers. They stumbled across a forgotten trail, barely visible in the chaos, but it was the only way forward. Lisa could feel Tyler's grip loosening on her. He was losing ground, the dreadful force of the dark whispering to him again, trying to pull him back into its fold. "Tyler," Sarah screamed, clutching tightly to his sleeve. "Stay with us, please." But Tyler's eyes flickered with that distant look, the spell around him tightening. Shadows danced at their feet, beckoning him closer, his body swaying like a leaf caught in a gust of wind. "They want him," Lisa panicked, tugging harder at the fabric of his shirt. "We can't let them take him." Brad shot a glance at the looming trees, their gnarled branches casting nightmarish shadows as they crawled forward. "We need to break the spell now." He swerved back, pulling Tyler with all his strength. "Snap out of it, man. Fight it." Tyler's lips parted, barely a breath escaping as the melody from the depths of the forest danced in his mind. "I can't, it's calling to me, no," Lisa yelled, her voice crackling with wild energy, each word laced with desperation. "You're stronger than this. You have to fight." Just then, the shadows erupted. A wave of frigid air swept through the clearing, swirling around them like a predator lunging for its prey. The haunting laughter grew louder, drowning out everything else, an ocean of sound meant to engulf them. Lisa felt the weight of a cold, unseen presence hovering just behind her, the hairs on her neck standing on end. It was an army of the lost spirits pulled from their resting places, hungry for life, for the warmth of flesh, their whispers now a deafening roar. "Run," Mark shouted, pushing Tyler forward, and somehow, in that moment, Tyler blinked as if awakening from a deep slumber. "We cannot whistle anymore," he gasped, more a plea than a directive. "It only calls them closer." They veered right, dodging the thick bark of trees that seemed to shift and change like living beings, creating a maze from which there seemed no escape. "Where do we go?" Sarah whimpered, breath catching on the edge of sobs. "Follow me," Mark barked, taking the lead, flinging himself deeper into the darkness. They tore through the woods, hearts racing, feet pounding over rocks, the ground ruthless and unforgiving. Yet, the shadows followed still, flickering between the trees, sharp whispers trailing like smoke. A sudden crack echoed nearby, a limb snapping, not from behind, but from ahead. The group froze, breath hitching, eyes as wide as saucers. "Is there someone else?" Lisa's voice trembled, the idea of another presence galvanizing the fear swirling in her gut. Mark squinted into the thickening darkness. "Could be. We need to keep moving." But the woods had grown thicker, the trees positioning themselves like sentinels guarding a forbidden path. Instinctively, they huddled together. All around, eyes glittered in the shadows, reflecting their fear back at them. The forest felt alive, breathing, waiting, taunting. "What if we're just going deeper into their territory?" Sarah whispered, a new fear rippling through them. In that split second, a new sound filled the air, the soft, eerie melody returning, threading through the trees like silk, wrapping around them. This time it felt deeper, richer, a song full of sorrow and longing. "It's beautiful," Tyler murmured, stepping forward uncontrollably, entranced again by the music. "Tyler, no," Lisa screamed, lunging to pull him back. But the shadows surged forward, their laughter blending with the melody in the most horrific harmony, a twisted invitation to the void. The darkness around them pulsed, drawing a line between hope and despair. A moment hung, suspended, and then they saw it. A shimmer beyond the trees, a flicker of light. Could it be an escape? Towards the light, Mark shouted as they made their choice. But in that moment, what truth lay ahead? And who or what would await them in that soft glow? The ground shook again. The shadows hissed. Would they make it? Or would they fall into the haunting embrace of the forest forever? As they bolted toward the light, the laughter transformed into screams, forced out from 1,000 unseen throats, their energy pooling, ready to pounce. The light flickered like a distant star, shimmering with an allure that felt almost like hope. Lisa's heart hammered in her chest. There was a force pulling her toward it, but the darkness clawed at them, eager to keep them prisoners of the shadows. Mark led the charge, pushing past trees that twisted and swayed, as if they were alive, actively conspiring against their escape. "Faster!" he shouted, and his desperation electrified the night. The atmosphere thickened around them, cold and tightening, every second stretched out. Tyler's eyes drooped. He looked lost in a trance, the haunting melody pulling him closer to the darkness. Lisa reached for him, taking his hand firmly, trying to anchor him. "You're with us, Tyler. Don't let go." His voice barely cracked, fear glimmering in his eyes. But the shadows rushed, a torrent of black that yanked at their ankles, fighting against their every move. Sarah tripped, her legs snagging on a root that seemed to stretch out deliberately. She fell hard, gasping as the wild laughter danced around them. "Get up, Sarah," Brad shouted, turning back. "Help!" She scrabbled on the ground, panic flooding her voice. It was a distraction, a momentary lapse that would cost them dearly if they didn't act fast. "Leave her," Mark barked, his resolve crumbling under the strain of losing yet another member. "We don't have time." With a surge of adrenaline, Brad lunged and pulled her up, yanking her to her feet. "We can't go back," he said, his voice taut with urgency, just behind the edge of panic. "We need to move. Now." As they pushed forward, the shadows loomed, swallowing the path behind them. Lisa chanced a glance over her shoulder and saw forms shifting within the darkness. Faces twisted and gnarled, filled with longing and malice. "Run!" she cried again, desperation dripping from her words like sweat on her brow. The melody crescendoed, rich and thick around them. They reached for the light, pushing through branches that scratched and pulled, as if the forest itself were trying to hold them back. Just a few more steps was all they needed. With every struggle, the shadows seemed to roar in frustration, a cacophony of mournful cries mingled with laughter, pulling them into a sinister embrace. Then they reached the edge of the trees. Light bathed their skin, warm and inviting. But as they stepped out, it flickered, revealing what lay beyond the forest's clutch, an abandoned clearing filled with forgotten relics and rusted metal. Once a camp perhaps, now a grave of memories. Heaps of cracked photographs scattered, ghostly faces staring blankly, memories lost to time and tragedy. "What is this?" Lisa gasped, stepping back instinctively as broken chairs creaked under the weight of unseen memories. "What happened here?" A soft breeze swept through, carrying the melody they just escaped from. It fused with the sounds of the clearing, twisting into a harmony that sent chills down their spines. Shadows seeped from the trees, trailing into the grass like liquid terror, and for a split second, the group was paralyzed with the realization that they hadn't escaped at all. "They're coming," Tyler whispered, abruptly shaking off his stupor. "They're here." The light flickered again, and just as abruptly vanished. Darkness enveloped them once more, the whispers returning, swirling in a tempest of voices. "What do we do?" Sarah's voice trembled, eyes wide in panic. "Fight," Mark said, determination threading through his fear, as he stepped protectively in front of Sarah. They were surrounded, silhouettes forming from shadows, blurred features making their way forward. The laughter was no longer distant but right against their ears, a chilling reminder of what they had narrowly escaped. "Together," Lisa shouted, locking eyes with each of her friends. "We stick together. No one gets left behind again." But as the shadows lunged, they realized the melodies weren't just echoes from the forest, they were a warning. And in that moment of gathering courage, the shadows paused, as if considering a trap laid out before them. "None of you will survive." Here one voice hissed, a whisper that felt like ice wrapping around their bones. As they braced themselves for an attack, each heartbeat pounding in defiance, they knew despair was lurking. But could the friends face the darkness together, or would they succumb to the voices and the pull of the shadows? What awaited them in the heart of that silence, where shadows danced with echoing laughter? The ground trembled beneath them, the shadows thickening like a smog that clung to their skin, stifling their breath. Lisa's heart raced faster than ever, each thump a frantic plea for escape. The voice that had whispered death slipped into the shadows, leaving a tense silence that wrapped around them like a vice, squeezing the air from their lungs. "Mark, we need a plan." Brad's voice broke through the tension, desperation spilling from his lips. But Mark could only shake his head, his eyes darting around as if expecting the shadows to spring upon them. A laugh echoed, low and cruel, sending chills prickling down Lisa's spine. It didn't belong to any of them. It was a sound from the depths, something ancient and wicked. The melody had shifted again, rising and falling like the tide, drowning them in dread. "Listen," Sarah hissed, her voice barely a whisper. "Do you hear that? It's like they want us to join them." "No way. I refuse to be a part of whatever this is," Mark shouted, trembling yet resolute. "We have to find a way out of here." The photos scattered across the clearing caught Lisa's eye again. Pale faces stared back at her, frozen in time, a chilling reminder of those who had come before. An idea sparked. What if these are the echoes of those who fell before us? What if we can find a clue? Brad bent down, picking up a crumpled photograph, his hands shaking. "It looks like a family? They're smiling. How did they end up here?" His voice cracked under the weight of realization. The shadows surged as if angered by their curiosity. "You cannot change your fate, children." The sinister voice coiled around them, thick and suffocating. "Join us, become part of the melody." Shadows writhed and danced, their forms merging into a swirling vortex of despair. "We have to make a choice." Lisa's words hung heavy in the air, the weight of reality settling upon them. She looked at her friends. Fear gripped their faces, but she saw a flicker of resolve in Marcus' eyes. "Together we fight," he insisted, drawing a deep breath. "We can't let them win." They formed a huddle, hands linked, panic pulsing under their skin as the darkness loomed closer, taunting them. Lisa's voice was shaky but clear. "We will not become echoes. We'll fight to create our own melody." Suddenly, an uproar of laughter erupted, filling the clearing. The shadows seemed to shrink back momentarily, perhaps startled by their defiance. But only for a moment, then they surged forward, a wave of pure malice, and the friends braced for impact. "Now!" Mark yelled, and they burst forward, running as a united front towards the edge of the clearing, hoping to find a crack in the shadows, a sliver of light to guide their escape. But as they ran, the laughter morphed into anguished screams, the ground beneath them shifting, twisting. The memories trapped here, could they unleash hell upon them as they fled? Lisa glanced back, terror flooding her veins as a dark figure emerged, jagged and monstrous. "Behind you!" Tyler shouted, panic breaking through the group's resolve. With a burst of adrenaline, they stumbled deeper into the clearing, crediting their survival to sheer instinct. Branches scraped at them, the shadows grasping like desperate hands. The air was thick with the scent of decay. As they approached the far end, they saw it, a dimly lit path leading toward the hills. Ancient stones flanked the entryway as if guarding a secret. "Go!" Brad shouted. But just before they could sprint into the unknown, the sinister voice thundered from behind. "You cannot run from what you are destined to be." They hesitated for a heartbeat, realizing the truth in the voice's words. Yet, Lisa felt a flicker of hope, the promise of freedom just beyond sight. But would they dare take that leap? As the vibrant energy of darkness built again, threatening to swallow them whole, Lisa took a deep breath and made a choice. Run. Together. And as they dashed for the light, the shadows converged, a violent storm of despair and fury. Could they escape the grip of their own fates, or would the echoes of the past drag them back into the void? What lay ahead in the uncertain path, hope or eternal darkness? They surged forward, hearts pounding, lungs screaming for oxygen. The dim path ahead flickered with uncertainty, casting eerie shapes that seemed to reach out as if welcoming or warning them. Lisa's legs felt like lead, every step weighed down by the creeping darkness behind them. "Faster!" Mark shouted, his voice fierce though tinged with panic, pushing them forward at a dizzying pace. The branches snapped at their heels, angry whispers echoing in their ears. They could feel the shadows trailing, a sinister breath brushing their necks, filling them with dread. Rocks crunched underfoot as they raced down the path. What if we're running to our doom? Sarah gasped, terror spilling over her voice. Then we stand and fight, Lisa replied, forcing the doubt out of her heart. That's the choice we made. Each heartbeat was a drum in their ears, a racing melody of life, each pulse syncing with the laughter that echoed back down the path, twisted and mocking. It sounded almost familiar, like a broken record of memories, taunting them as they sprinted through the trees. The shadows wrapped tighter, squeezing the life from the air around them. They're gaining, Brad shouted, glancing over his shoulder with terrified eyes. The monstrous shape lurked just behind them, dark and vast, every movement a promise of despair. The light! Keep going toward the light, Mark yelled. Just ahead, a glimmer flickered, a soft glow that looked like hope. Bursting into the clearing, they stumbled to a halt, their breath hitching in their throats. Before them stood an ancient stone arch, covered in twisting vines, glowing faintly as if alive, a gateway to nowhere and everywhere all at once. Tremors rippled through the ground beneath them. The air turned electric, crackling with the energy of something unfathomable. Do we go through? Tyler asked, dread pooling in his stomach, his eyes darting back to the shadows. We have to, Lisa insisted, her voice steady despite the panic threading through her. We don't have a choice. The sinister laughter erupted again, sounding more like a chorus of the lost souls trapped in the darkness, urging them to turn back. Shadows danced malevolently around the arch, twisting it into a trap of despair. Together, Mark urged, pulling everyone close once more. We either step through this or succumb to that. With their hands clasped, a unified front against the darkness, they charged toward the arch. The moment they crossed the threshold, a blinding light engulfed them, and for a heartbeat, they felt weightless, as if suspended between time, caught in a beautiful embrace. But just as quickly, the sensation vanished. They landed hard on the other side, rolling into a new reality. Staring up at an endless sky, illuminated by strange, swirling colors, they gasped. It didn't feel like the Appalachian Mountains anymore. In fact, it felt like another world, surreal and alien, yet achingly familiar. Where are we? Sarah looked around, disoriented. We shouldn't be here, Brad muttered, his face pale. The shadows had followed. They slinked to the edges of the clearing, shifting between trees, hungry, waiting. Mark stepped forward, defiant. We've escaped one hell, but what if we've just entered another? An echo whispered through the air, soft yet heavy, wrapping them in shadows. Welcome to the realm of the echoes. Lisa felt a chill creep up her spine. What new horrors awaited them in this place? Would they ever be free, or were they forever entwined in the melody of the lost? As they stood, uncertainty hanging thick in the air, the shadows began to close in, and Lisa knew that the real fight was just beginning. Stay together. Whatever happens, we stick together. But as they braced themselves for what lay ahead, a figure emerged from the swirling colors, a familiar face, twisted in sorrow, pulling at Lisa's heartstrings. Help me, it whispered, and in that instant the chilling realization struck. Who was really lost here, and who were the echoes trapped in this haunting melody? The shadows coiled tighter around the clearing, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. Lisa's heart raced, each beat drowning out the familiar voice that echoed before her. The figure before her, so hauntingly familiar, twisted her insides. Help me! It was Jacob, her little brother, lost so many years ago. Jacob? She gasped, her voice thick with fear and hope. The vision shimmered, flickering like an old film. He looked the same, yet different. His eyes glowed with a strange light that made the hairs on her arms stand at attention. Behind him loomed darkness, eager and hungry, pulsating with agony. Yes, Lisa, please. His plea spilled into the air, laced with desperation. Remember me? Sarah gasped, her eyes widening. Is that... No way. That can't be him. She shuddered, stepping back, pulling at Mark's arm. Is this a trick? Brad's voice cracked, vibrating with disbelief. Stay back, Lisa shouted, turning to them. It's him. I know it's him. Maybe this is what the shadows want, a way to tear us apart, Mark warned, eyes darting around. The malevolent laughter rose again, swirling around them, echoing with disdain. Lisa, Jacob whispered, stretching a hand toward her. I'm so lonely here. I need you. Help me. The shadows loomed. They surged forward, almost tangible. Lisa felt their cold tendrils brushing against her skin, urging her to give in, to surrender to the past. Her breaths came in short, frantic bursts. She was torn, her brother, the shadows, the truth. Don't listen to him, Brad shouted, his voice barely rising above the chaos. Yes, not real, but the flicker of hope was intoxicating. The memory of long-lost days, laughter, and help when she needed it most surged within her. She stepped forward, reaching for Jacob's outstretched hand, only to feel a sudden pull from the shadows that encircled them. Lisa, please, remember the fun we had? The shadows stilled, waiting hungrily, as if the moment of transition required one final push. Stop, Tyler yelled, grounding the group. That's not him. That's what they want you to think. Can't you see he's trapped? Lisa pleaded, her voice trembling with the weight of conflicting emotions. I can set him free. No, Mark shouted, panic driving him forward to pull her back. We can't trust it. The echoes, they lie. The shadows hissed, growing thicker, more menacing, their laughter shifting into a roar. The air charged with tension, pressing on them like a weight. In the swirling chaos, the figure of Jacob began to fade, his desperate look morphing into something sinister. Help me echoed louder now, wrapping around her like a choking vine. The realization hit hard. This wasn't just a plea. It was a warning, a desire to pull her into the darkness. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath them, forcing their attention away from the figure. The arch behind them began to crackle with energy, pulsating ominously, beckoning them to make a choice. Run, Mark yelled. We can't leave her behind. Surely we can save him, Lisa cried, resisting the urge to join Jacob. No, if we stay, we're lost too, Tyler cried, despairing. All at once, the figure dissipated into the shadows, leaving behind a void swirling with anguish. Now, Mark grabbed Lisa's arm, pulling her away, racing toward the arch. But the shadows roared, thrumming with rage, closing in. As they lunged through the arch, darkness clawed at their heels, and a chilling whisper brushed against Lisa's neck. You'll never escape, not while I'm inside you. They stumbled through the arch and landed hard on the ground, dazed, echoing cries of horror reverberating in their ears. Breathless and wide-eyed, Lisa turned to her friends, fear hanging heavy in the air. They were safe for now, but could the whispers ever truly be silenced? Did we just lose Jacob? She whispered, her voice barely audible. The silence that followed was deafening, foreboding, and somewhere, deep in the shadows, an answer beckoned that no one wanted to hear. The night wrapped around them like a thick fog, darkness pressing against their skin. Lisa's heart thundered in her chest, the image of Jacob still clear in her mind, haunting her. What just happened? Sarah breathed, glancing back at the arch, now a mere outline in the shadows. Did we really leave him? Doesn't he matter, Mark replied, his voice low and shaky. They huddled together, the chill in the air biting hard against their skin. What matters is how to get us out of here. Get us out of here? Lisa shot back, her eyes blazing. We just left my brother. I can't just abandon him. The shadows around them seemed to pulse, echoing with her turmoil, feeding on her emotions like a ravenous beast. Lisa, please, Tyler said softly, stepping closer. If that was Jacob, if he is trapped, then you're tearing yourself apart wanting to help him. But he needs me. They want to use you. Brad interrupted with urgency, stepping up to steady her. That wasn't he, your brother, anymore. We barely made it out of there. You can't go back. A low growl reverberated all around them, and the group recoiled, instinctively moving closer together. Lisa's breath hitched as she felt the ground beneath her feet shivering in response. "Where do we even go now?" Sarah asked, scanning the treetops that towered ominously overhead. They were utterly alone, surrounded by an inexplicable sense of dread. "Let us move toward the edge of the forest," Mark suggested, trying to sound confident despite the tremor in his voice. "Maybe we'll find a way back, maybe someone has a flashlight, or maybe the shadows will catch us," Lisa interjected, feeling despair creeping up her spine. "We don't even know where we are." "Then we keep moving. We can't just stand here," Tyler insisted. He grabbed Lisa by the arm, propelling her forward. As they trudged through the thick underbrush, the air shifted, thickening with a pungent scent of decay. It clawed at their nostrils, making them gag. Suddenly, they heard whispers sharp, jagged, and nauseating floating through the night like a sinister melody. Each keening sound made the hair on the back of Lisa's neck prickle. "Do you hear that?" Lisa whispered, panic bubbling just below the surface. "It's the shadows," Brad warned. His eyes darted to the darkness around them. "They're mocking us and they're closing in." At that moment, a figure flickered at the edge of their vision, flitting in and out of the shadows, taunting them. Lisa's heart threatened to burst free from her chest as fear coursed through her veins. "Run," Mark urged, his voice filled with desperation as he leaped forward. The others followed, stumbling through the dense brush, limbs flailing. "What are we running towards?" Sarah gasped, her breath hitching. The fear in her voice sliced through the chaos, igniting a surge of reality. Lisa turned her head to look back, a gut-wrenching instinct compelling her. "Just a glimpse, Lisa." "Don't." Tyler pulled her arm, dragging her forward. But it was too late. The whispering grew louder, merging into a cacophony that drowned out everything else. "Come back to us," it sang. The shadows twisted and coiled, grasping like skeletal fingers. Lisa felt their chill wrapping around her, blood coursing with panic. "I can hear them. They want me." "No," Mark yelled, his grip tightening on her wrist. "We don't need to listen." They burst into a small clearing, moonlight bathing the area in a cold, unearthly glow. It felt like a fragile pocket of safety. But something lay on the ground, a pile of tattered belongings, stained and dirted. Pieces of clothing, a small toy, items Lisa recognized but had long buried in her mind. Those are Jacob's," she stuttered, horror dawning as recognition plunged deep into her chest. A chilling realization crashed over her like a wave. "What if he's not the only one?" Sarah whispered, peering past the clearing, tension vibrating in the air. The shadows pressed along the edge, waiting, watching, and somewhere, from the depths of that looming darkness, a low, hollow sound carried through the night. "Run," Tyler shouted again. But this time, the urgency in his voice was mixed with an edge of uncertainty. They weren't just running to escape. They were running deeper into the heart of whatever waited for them there, and in that moment, they all knew. The darkness wasn't finished with them yet. What would be revealed in the next clearing? As they stumbled deeper into the clearing, Lisa felt an electrifying mix of regret and determination. The tattered remnants of her brother's belongings lay before her like pieces of a shattered past. "We can't leave, we need to find more." "Yes, still here," she gasped, her heart racing against the relentless whispers that flitted just outside their grasp. "Enough," Mark shouted, the weight of their situation boiling over. "We have to focus on getting out of here. Finding Jacob is going to get us killed." But she couldn't let go. "He needs me. We can't leave him." The shadows surged forward, angry at her resistance, hungry for her despair. "Listen," Tyler said, his voice low but firm. "We've already lost so much. We can't waste what's left." The shadows recoiled for a moment, sensing uncertainty among the group. But the malevolent laughter that echoed from beyond the trees cranked the tension back up. "Let us go now," Brad urged, panic creeping into his voice. They moved together, a tight knot unwilling to break. As they pressed forward into the thrumming darkness, the shadows faded back momentarily, as if respecting their decision, but they were waiting, always waiting. The trees ahead gave way to a new clearing bathed in the glow of flickering lights, ghostly wisps that floated up from the ground. What are those? Sarah wondered aloud, her voice trembling with awe and fear. It doesn't matter, Mark spat. Just keep moving. But as they stepped into the clearing, every vibrant flicker drew them closer, whispering promises of nostalgia and warmth. Lisa recalled the sound of Jacob's laughter, the way it used to echo through their house. No, we have to stay strong, she thought to herself, her heart pounding. We have to stick together. Lisa reminded her friends, squeezing their hands tightly. But the shadows whispered promises of reunion, and the air thickened along with their uncertainty. Jacob, wouldn't he want you here? A faint voice echoed, dripping with sorrow and deceit. We need a plan, Tyler said, urgency replacing the earlier doubt in his eyes. We can't let ourselves get trapped here. Just then, a movement caught Lisa's eye. Something shifted in the shadows, and a familiar figure emerged. It was Jacob again, but this time he looked less like a lost boy and more like a puppet, strings attached to his limbs by dark shadowy fingers. Help me, he whispered, voice silken but glimmering with a sinister edge. Please, Lisa, stay away from him, Mark yelled, planting himself in front of Lisa like a shield. That's not him. It's a trap. But the struggle raged within her. He-s just lost. He-s not the darkness. Snth? Came a menacing voice that echoed around them, resonating with the trembling trees. Didn't you abandon your own kin? The shadows surged closer, fueled by her conflict, dragging their essence toward her in undulating waves. Lisa felt Ethan push against her, darkness whispering their fears. In a moment of clarity, Tyler grabbed Lisa's shoulders. We fight. We don't join him. We have to remember what binds us here together. And what about him? Lisa's voice cracked. Mark replied through hardened resolve. He's right. We keep moving. That's our only chance. We don't waver. Just then, the shadows screeched with anger, snapping forth, attempting to grasp their legs as they rallied together once more. Run! Mark bellowed, and they surged forward, moving as one, fueled by the power of friendship and determination. The flickering lights began to dim, and fear coursed through them like wildfire. The whispers surged, clawing at their sanity, pulling at their minds. Let go. Let the echoes take you. The shadows hissed, but with each frantic step, they pushed against the tide, united and stronger than the darkness that sought to consume them. They ran past ghostly remnants of unwelcome memories, clearing into the sunlight at the other end of the forest. Keep going, Lisa shouted, adrenaline pushing them through the hazy light that welcomed them, the air sharp and fresh. Behind them, the shadows shrieked, thrashing against the invisible barrier, fighting, desperately to follow. But they were free. The warmth of the sun poured over them, illuminating the path ahead. Still gasping for air, they shared a knowing glance. We made it, Lisa whispered, relief flooding into her bones. None of that matters if we don't escape the mountains, Mark replied, a frown creasing his forehead. Then we take the path to town, Brad said, pointing toward a distant glimmer in the sunrise and knowing there would be safety with others. Let us go, no looking back. With renewed strength, they pressed on, leaving the shadows to howl in the fading twilight. The echoes softened behind them. In the end, they would carry the weight of the lost with them, but they knew now that only together could they face the darkness. Lisa, knowing Jacob's spirit remained part of her, felt the weight lift. As they made their way toward the glittering town, she whispered a promise into the wind: no more whistling in the mountains, no more danger. Just life ahead, bright and full of hope. But even as the sun sank behind the distant peaks, an unsettling thought drifted unbidden in her mind. Somewhere, in the darkness, the echoes still watched, waiting for another chance. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for the channel that brings you these exclusive tales. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the stories coming. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this conclusion. Your support makes all the difference in keeping this community alive. Let us keep it going.